Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us today for another wonderful episode of the Great Makers podcast. So today I have a wonderful guest joining me to talk about building resilient relationships. And I'm really, really excited about this topic. So without further ado, I'm going to ask you guys to introduce yourself to the audience. And I'm going to start with the lady right there.
Oh, I
Because
get first go.
happy wife, happy life. That's what we say.
And Andrew, you can speak for both of us, so
Well,
we're good.
Even
so
better.
you'll speak as well, but I'm Andrea Taylor-Cummings, married to Jonathan. We'll call him John for the show. For 32 years, April just
Hmm.
gone, we celebrated our 32nd anniversary. And as we develop our story through the conversation, it was daring to start a business together in our second year of marriage that got us doing the work that we do around building relational intelligence because we didn't have enough at the time. But more to come on that. What do you want to add?
So we've worked together off and on for the 32 years that we've been together. We've worked in corporate life, but we've also run businesses together. And in fact, it was the first business that we ran together 31 years ago, I think our second year of marriage, that got us into the work that we do in relationship space. And how we say it now, I mean, we joke about it, but when we started working together, we thought we knew each other. We'd had a fantastic experience living and working in Japan, away from family, friends, kind of bonded as a unit. Said, let's set up a business together.
How hard can it be?
How hard can it be was the question we asked. And very quickly, the answer came back very hard. And the reason it was so difficult looking back on it is because I knew how to do everything right. And Andrew just had some funny ideas.
So now you
And
know
that's,
what
that's
caused the
genuinely
problem.
what I thought. And you could see how we had some challenges. So we thankfully worked through those challenges, ran businesses, gone off into different roles, come back together. And for the last 7 or 8 years,
8 years
they've
now.
actually focused on making relationship equipping and education a key part of what we do.
And
So,
that's the Four Habits Institute that we run.
yeah. So that's a bit about us.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for the introduction. And thank you guys for joining us live, leaving the comments. Hi, Meryl. Hi, Duke. Everyone, please do drop us a little intro about yourself, where you connected from, where you're watching us from, and yeah, a little bit about your own definition of resilience as well, whilst we get around to our guests as one. But before that, Joel, please tell us a little bit more about you.
So hi, thank you for having me, Muna. Always fun to jump on these opportunities. I'm a brand strategist and designer. I've always been on my own professionally speaking. Started out as a freelancer. I'm here today because I work with my partner, as you know. I was the one that kind of pushed her to this freelance kind of thing. She's also a designer. And over the years, even though she had her own thing, I had my own thing because our own personal relationship developed. We kind of melted both businesses into what is now Growing Design. And yeah, the growth of the business has always been in parallel with the growth of our own personal relationship, which I find quite interesting. And it's been a while, and it's going super well.
Oh,
Amazing.
Yeah.
Did you start as well, like very early on? Like, were you together before starting the business, or did it happen?
When we met, I was already a freelancer. I was already working. We met in college, and that's how I paid for college, actually. So I paid for college with my freelance gigs, and it was very early years at that time, and we were meeting, dating, all that. And she saw me working. I had to do this, that, and that kind of inspired her to start as well. But it was never meant to be a joint business at that time. You have your thing, I have mine. This is how it goes. Yeah, then the relationship developed. We moved in together. We have our own home office space, all of that. So it kind of melted into one business. Yeah.
It,
Yeah.
just picking up on that, I love the idea of another college romance. As we're also met at university here. Well, Andrew came to the UK on a scholarship, and the line is that she came to get her master's and she got her mister as well.
You can see John has all the little quips and insights.
I
love
love
that.
that. I
Yeah.
love that. And it's always beautiful because I think it's something that is getting rarer and rarer nowadays. And probably something that you might be able to talk to us to about what's the secret of something that lasts the test of time. And also what's changing, in the new generations, the dynamic between
Mm.
people. But
Mhm.
before that, you must know I'm obsessed about resilience.
Okay.
If you didn't guess from everything that I do. But one of the things that I love about resilience is that it's very flexible and fluid, like its definition.
Mhm.
And I'd love to know what you guys think about resilience when you hear about the concept, when you feel the concept. What does it mean to you?
Shall I start?
You go first.
Um, as you say, there are a number of different ways that you can come at resilience, but one of the definitions I heard that really resonate with me is this idea of bouncing and bouncing forwards, so that whatever you're impacted with, whatever it is that you need to deal with, it might uh, knock you around for a bit, but the resilience is being able to come back not just to where you were, but stronger and ready for the future. And if I add a thought to that for relationships, resilience, I think of a different picture. It's like having strong boundaries protecting the relationship, but you deal with stuff on the inside of that, knowing you'll find a way forward while the relationship is still intact. So I think about it in those two ways.
Yeah, and if I pick up on that, I mean, as I shared on the LinkedIn chat or in the LinkedIn post earlier, to make sure I got it right, I went to ChatGPT to say, what is resilience? Get the proper definition, from the source. Not so sure about that, but anyway, what I loved is ChatGPT also said bounce, which is exactly where my head went to. As soon as I heard resilience,
ChatGPT got that from me.
was it from you?
No, no,
Oh,
no.
okay, okay, okay. No, bounce is definitely a key word in resilience, and for me, it's about being able to, and certainly in relationship territory, it's about being able to respond rather than react. It's about bounce under control. It's not just something boings off into the distance or so. This is about a proper measured response. It bounces back, and in relationships, so I'm sure we'll go on to talk about in a bit more. uh, Challenges will happen, 100%. In the the years we've been working in this space now, 100% of the thousands of couples, teams, people that we've spoken to,
Mm.
everybody has challenges in relationships, albeit to different degrees. Resilience is about being able to deal with those challenges appropriately, and that's kind of in a measured way, to be able to respond rather than just react the way that we feel our gut tells us to react or what have you. For me, that's what resilience means. It's responding in a measured, controlled way that keeps things on track.
And strengthens rather than
And
damages the
absolutely,
relationship,
the wheels
which is
can
what
come
we
off
talk about.
if you
Yeah.
respond badly. The wheels can come off very quickly.
Yeah.
Uh, we know we've seen it in people around us. We've felt it in our own relationship. You respond badly, things can go, as they say here, pear shaped very very quickly.
Yeah.
You need to be able to respond. You need to develop the skills, the muscles, the habits, whatever it takes to respond appropriately. And that for me is what really resilience looks like. It's yeah, that response under control.
Yeah.
And I really like the notion of boundaries here because there's like boundaries around the relationship, but also boundaries within yourself
Mhm.
when it comes to how do you control your temper or how do you control this reaction.
Yeah.
It's something we don't often talk about when it comes to personal growth. We
Yeah.
often want to like push boundaries and go
Indeed.
well. But it's a very, very interesting point that I'll come back to.
Mhm.
How about you, Joel? How do you see resilience in your
Okay.
life, in your day to day?
I'll introduce a different, not a different angle, but a complement to everything that you guys said. Like, absolutely agree with everything. With me personally, and from my experience, um, and this is something that I've worked on a lot. I, for a long while, for a very long while, I've only been experiencing seeing resilience as the only option. Like, there's in my life, both personally and professionally, if I don't take a resilient approach to anything, I might as well give up and do
Mhm.
something else, or move away entirely. And that's both professionally and personal relationships. If in your mind you go, there's no other option. This is the way to go. There's a problem. We need to solve it. We need to solve it. We need to solve the problem, not add to it. So that makes you go clear communication, proper respect for everyone involved, like all the good stuff. And there's no option. Every time a problem pops up business wise, and we're like, okay, this is a hurdle. How are we solving it?
Mhm.
It's not like this is it, bam, folded, let's get a job. No,
Mm.
it's not even an option. Anything that appears as a problem, it has a solution.
Yeah.
If it doesn't have a solution, might as well
It's not a
give
problem.
up. Yeah. So that's where I'm at. And yeah.
It's actually my one of my favorite quotes because I've been in customer success for like over a decade, and we're always seen as a problem solver. And the thing is, like, wherever there's a problem, there's a solution, and if there's no solution, there is no problem. You're literally just creating
You could
some
just give
friction.
up.
Um,
Mhm.
so it's interesting. So Joe, on your end, you're seeing really that resilience as a component of the day to day is the drive. Is like, if it's worth living, I'm gonna grow. If I'm not growing,
Yeah.
I'm a little bit dying inside.
Stagnation scares the shit out. Can we swear here? Stagnation scares the shit out of me. I felt that with close family members. I felt that stagnation in college professors. I feel that stagnation in close friends as well. That scares me a
Yeah.
lot. So that also fuels this resilience that we both have, which is quite good.
And if you link that to what's going on just in society, in the world right now, there is no place for stagnation. There's so much that we need to keep up with, up our game on, be really on the ball with all the developments, whether it be AI, whether it be changing the way you uh, present your business or deliver the services or products, because the world is changing so quickly. If you stand still, you're going backwards in a hurry. So I'm with you on, there is no room
100%.
for stagnation, especially now.
Well, we've got to keep moving forward. If I could jump in for a second. So I'll give you an example. There is a program on TV here, and I don't know if you guys get to see it where you are, but it's on the BBC, and it's a program called Race Across the World. Have you come across that or heard about it?
I, I've I've seen
So they,
I've
they
seen it.
basically have, I think it's about 5 or 6 teams of two that they put them together, and they have to go from one place. The example I'll share with you was from somewhere in England, or actually from Greenwich, where the Greenwich Meridian is. Go from there to Singapore, and you've got to go there by land, by train, bus, taxi, whatever. You're not allowed to fly, and they give you the
The the,
the,
the
the cost
price
the
of the
cost
ticket.
of a ticket. So £1,300, I think it was, something like that. And you have to find your way there, and it's a race. So the first team to get there gets what was it, £20,000 or something like that. Anyway, the example I want to come to is this one dad and his son are doing this thing, and every time they hit a challenge, the son was I think not quite a teenager, probably early 20s,
2021.
definitely Gen Z, very young. And his dad said every time in his life he faced a challenge, he'd be like, "Oh, what am I going to do? I don't know what to do." And through this, I think it took them 50 days, was
Yeah.
it something like that, to get there? But through that, you saw him develop resilience. You saw him face a challenge and step up. And his dad would say to him, sometimes he'd be there and his dad would say, look, the only word I can say to you is just suck it up. What else are you going to do? Just suck it up. And for me, I think that kind of just epitomizes resilience. That you just got to take it on the chin, suck it up, and keep moving forward. There's no space to just sit back and say, well, it's happened, I don't know, I'm going to go into a pit. You've just got to keep moving forward. And I
Or
think
I'm going to
that's
quit you. There's no room to
exactly,
quit.
there's no room to quit. You just got to keep moving forward. You've got to develop that resilient spirit, I think.
I
Yeah,
thought
it's, sorry, Joe.
just to finish, I thought with that goes complaining. Like if your first reaction is complaining, okay, fine. If that's your only reaction to a problem, then you have a problem yourself. Like it is what it is.
I've heard that there's a great teacher, mentor in the network marketing world that says you can get 15 minutes to beat the bed with a broomstick, and then that's it. You get up and you carry on, but just 15 minutes.
You know what? I can imagine how therapeutic that might be. I'm thinking, do I have a broomstick? Yes. I'm probably going to add one in my room.
Take it out on the bed.
Yeah, I'll hide it on its side. I just
Yeah.
wanted to thank as well Jay, Christy, again, Meryl, Rashida. Thank you for joining us. Thank you so much, everyone. And yeah, Chikunde as well. Thank you so much, Pacific, for your kind message and your support.
These are people all over the world, man. Looking at that. Wow.
Definitely.
Lovely.
Kendra as well from Wyoming. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. It would be
Indeed.
super great if you can add in the comment as well what resilience means to you, and especially when it comes to relationships. And maybe if someone want to share in the audience in the comments how you came to build resilience for your own relationships. Maybe you have certain questions around it for our wonderful guest tonight, but maybe you have also something to share. So please do. I'm reading your comments as we go, and I will pause whenever we get a chance. But that going back to the broomstick story, it's really because it generates this thinking around complaints, around there's a friction. I can either sit in my frustration, or I can like expand and grow in that process to become a different version of myself that allows me to handle this differently. Now, it's all fun and game when we talk about work or certain tasks or certain challenges that we need to embrace. I've seen that when I was running growth mindset workshops. It was very easy for certain individuals to have a growth mindset for certain areas of life, and then still failing to see how they didn't have it when it came to relationships, and especially the people they were the closest to. So when it comes to that, like, why, other than the obvious thing that obviously it's touching our emotions, but have you seen like a common thread why this particular area of relationship is so particular when it comes to growth?
Yeah, I'll jump in with that. But the first thing I want to do is say, Meryl, not 50 minutes. That's too much. It's 15 minutes. You only get 15,
One five.
only 5 minutes to complain. Um, we have recognized that in relationships, it's so easy to get stuck in the problem. The only thing you can see is the problem. And usually what we're doing is blaming the other person. So it's their fault. I'm frustrated because of them, and they did this and they need to change. And the challenge, or what we've learned and how we challenge people to think now, is when you find yourself stuck in a frustration, something that's frustrating you, try to push past the frustration and ask yourself, what does good look like? And from that, what's the ask? So some people respond swearing with WTF. We say WTA. What's the ask? What's the thing that you want to ask of your partner, instead of attacking them about what they're doing that's frustrating you? what does good look like, and that's the ask that you need to make. It would be amazing if you spent more time with me instead of you're always working and you're never around and da, da, da. What's the ask? And that's the thing to ask ourselves in relationships.
Yeah, no, 100% I'd agree with that. I think the mindset point, the lack of growth in people in relationship space specifically, is because, as Andrea said, the problem is never with me. When the relationship break down, it's always your fault. You bad person, you did this. I was innocent. I did nothing. And actually, the reality is we're all doing things that are coming across in a certain way. And sometimes we're not aware of how we're landing with other people.
Yeah.
There's this concept, lovely concept of the emotional bank account that we talk about, that you may have come across it. But it's who's it? Stephen Covey spoke about it in his 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. A lot of people kind of jump over it there, and it doesn't land with them. I'm like, why? It's so powerful. But we all have emotional bank accounts. Mona, we set one up when we met a few weeks ago. Joel, we just set one up today. And once it's a subconscious thing that you do, this emotional bank account, but you keep a record of every interaction you have with people from the moment you meet them. If the interaction is positive, it's a cha-ching deposit into the emotional bank account. If it's negative, it's a withdrawal. It's a sucking life out of the relationship. And the quality of the relationship is the balance in the account. So if your relationship feels good, you have a positive balance. That's where you do things for people. You go the extra mile. Nothing's a problem. Hey, no worry, no problem. Hey, no problem. It's fine. We'll do that. When the relationship, if you're making withdrawals unintentionally, and most of us do it unintentionally, I've yet to meet somebody who goes into a relationship trying to wreck it. Whether it's a work relationship, home relationship, we don't do that. But we're all doing things unintentionally that make withdrawals from the emotional bank account. And that's what drains the balance. And when the balance drops to zero or into overdraft, it's like hell. It's like when your financial bank account goes into overdraft. Everything's a problem. Nothing is easy. Everything is a challenge. So what we need to do is keep balances in positive territory. But back to the point, most of us don't realize there are things we're doing that are landing badly in other people's emotional bank accounts. We're making withdrawals unintentionally. So really, we need to open our eyes, become more self-aware firstly, recognize how we're coming across, what are some of the things that we're doing that are making unintentional withdrawals. We need to stop those things and actually start making deposits on purpose. Because if you say you get to the point, I mean, let's go back to a quick example with domestic relationships. You get together, the honeymoon period is on, everybody's cool with each other, right? You gradually start making withdrawals, and that drains the emotional bank account of the other person. So it's not your own you're draining theirs, and they're draining yours usually. If you both get to the point where you're in negative territory, that relationship is struggling. If you leave it there, the relationship will stay struggling. They don't fix themselves. There's no magic formula. You have to make deposits to get it back into positive territory. So that's what we need to be doing to get into positive territory. Recognize what we're doing, how we're coming across, and stop doing some of the withdrawals and actually start making deposits on purpose. Get back into positive territory. And that's where you have successful relationships. When your emotional bank account feels good, mine feels good, we're going somewhere. If we're not in that space, we're going to have challenges, and then the wheels, as I say, can come off very, very quickly.
That's a really beautiful metaphor. I really like this concept. I think I heard of it, but never quite pictured it so much in these terms.
Yeah.
And I think it really resonates with the fact of how our own emotional bank account with ourselves, right? Like the more we build evidence that we can achieve something or we treat ourselves better, we then gain that confidence. We gain in like this capacity to serve others as well much better. And at the opposite, if we withdraw ourselves, then we make ourselves broke,
Yeah.
basically. We break ourselves, we break our own bank.
And you can't give what you don't have. So yes, it works all around. And talking about the emotional bank account, a classic example with us is that I might do something that made a withdrawal from John's emotional bank account without realizing it. Then he'd respond in a certain way, and I'd get upset at the way he responded without taking any responsibility for what I did, because I didn't know I did anything. But the response, that's something we really need to talk about. And we get in this cycle of who started it first and who needs to apologize first. But when you realize that this emotion, that the impact on the emotional bank account is happening all the time with everything we say and do, then we can become more intentional and not intentional about our behaviors so that we don't get stuck in frustration.
If I could jump in for just 1 second, the really, really important point Andrew just made there is emotional bank account deposits and withdrawals are all about perceptions and have nothing to do with intentions.
Yeah.
So I could have done
Yeah, I
something,
was
I
gonna say
meant
that.
the best will in the world. Of course, I didn't mean to harm you. But if you receive it as if your perception, you receive it as a negative or as a withdrawal, that's all that counts.
Yeah.
I didn't make the rules, but that's how they play. So you have to be really aware that it's all about perception. So if you do something or say something and the other person, you can usually see, we're all very intelligent. Well, we have a lot of intelligence when we can see perception, see how other people are responding. When we recognize something hasn't landed well, the best thing to do is don't sweep it under the carpet. It won't go away. Actually address it and just say, I'm really sorry. I can see something I just did or said didn't land well with you. Help me understand what I did, because I wasn't trying to offend you, but clearly something hasn't worked. Those 3 words, help me understand, they're gold. They are really, really powerful. Just to understand what you've done, realize how you're coming across, and try and address it. So
Yeah.
I'll be quiet now. We could
So-
talk all day long. So you
I
jump in.
was-
Feel free to jump in. Shut us up when you need to.
I was gonna say poor Joel's waiting to share
Sorry,
a thought,
Joel.
and we're just
No, I was gonna add that final thought actually, because that's I'm a very deep observer. Like when I'm with a group of people and here as well, like I pay attention to these details and how people interact. And what I see in relationships, both with close family members or friends that have been in a relationship with like for a long time, is like they're almost waiting for any excuse to do that withdrawal that you're talking about, because they expect for the other person to do their withdrawal to be like to respond immediately in that same sense. So that's a relationship that is beyond the negative state, obviously. And how to prevent that, because now I would like us like to go, what's the solution, right? What's the solution here? If you're in a relationship with someone, either be a friend, partner, business partner, that relationship came from somewhere, from shared goals, from shared interests, for something that you both love. Why do we end up with this assumption that the other person is out to get us?
Indeed,
Like,
yeah.
why is that? And if you get to that point, what is the point of continuing with that and going back to resilience? What can you do to solve it? How can you recover? Or can it be recovered? Do you have to part ways? Well, where do you go? Where do you go from there? Because that's sadly something that I see a lot going on. Couples, either friends or romantic partners, like they live in that constant negative balance state and always waiting to respond in the same way that they feel attacked. And it's a very kind of sad with that.
And that links that kind of ties in with everything we've said so far about resilience, being stuck in frustrations, and how that plays out in relationships. And we like to talk about, especially for couples, this sacred space between you. And it's our job to protect and nourish and defend that sacred
What do you
space.
say? Our job? Who's the
Yeah,
our?
or as
Not
in the
us.
relationships, our job as well,
Everybody
in
in
what we teach.
relationships. It's
But
each person's
yeah, it's
responsibility.
the couple's job to nurture and look after that sacred space. But the thing is, it can get cluttered with lots of emotions and reactions and things that didn't go so well, and we don't spend enough time doing house cleaning to figure out what's in there, what do we need to talk about, so that we learn the lesson, we grow, we don't have to go back there anymore. And if it stays cluttered with so many things unaddressed or unspoken about, then it becomes a problem. And what's beautiful about the emotional bank account, lots of things beautiful about it, but it allows you to bring emotions into the conversation, because as you know, we make decisions emotionally and justify them logically, but we struggle to talk about the emotional content. And there is always emotional content in every conversation. We struggle to talk about how it made us feel. We just react out of that feeling instead of saying, when you did that, this is what it made me feel. Because Usually the other person wouldn't want you to feel that way, but we don't talk about how we felt. We show them how we felt. We act it out instead of talk it out. But just understanding the concept of the emotional bank account suddenly empowers all of us to just be more intentional about how we behave and how what we're saying is landing, and more observant, to be able to manage the moment better. And if you ever see something you intended well land badly, that's the point to have a courageous conversation and declutter, keep things from cluttering the sacred space, because you talk about it, you deal with it, and you move on.
Yeah. And I think that's also what we see in the audience comments, right? There are congrats for the 23 years next month, Kendra.
Woo!
Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful celebration.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kendra also mentioned like how she loved this idea of being more intentional,
Mm.
putting in those deposits. And there's also something that Tuyikunde shared with us about watching your own parents' relationship, especially struggling to big events and traumatic events with the war, with separations. It does set certain preconceived beliefs and conceptions that we might think of relationships, that they are this way and they are meant to be a certain way for everyone. And it's only until when we grow up that we get to discover that there is a resilient part and that we don't need to replicate necessarily these patterns. Now, one thing that I've noticed also with me and in my jobs is that that's what we bring at work as well,
Mm.
this baggage. That's what we bring in the corners of our perfectionism. That's what we bring in our relationships with business partners, clients. This idea of they're there to get us. When we have a client that just asks the same things 3 times and they're not satisfied about how it's done, how do you how did you get to navigate that? And I'm thinking, Joe, especially that you grew an audience and you were used to like build these relationships online, maybe also with people and maybe a larger pool of people. How do you manage to pay attention to majority of these details?
So I would like to say that I'm doing a good job in that sense, but I'm not entirely sure. what what I do know is, what helps a lot here. I'm not necessarily that type of person that has like a million friends. I'm the type of person that has like maybe 7, 8 friends, but I know a lot about them. They're really really deep connections, and the same happens in the online sense because we meet through common aspirations, goals, stuff we like. It's easy to deepen those connections and those friendships. And and something that I like about the online business space is not everyone, obviously, but most are more than willing to help each other. And in terms of friendship, that's something that I value a lot. I don't even consider someone a friend if they're not like willing to help you in some sense. Does sound a bit transactional, yes, but I kind of see it that way. Similar to the bank accounts, if you're not willing to give something to the relationship, it's going to be really hard to maintain it. That's what I believe.
Yeah,
And
like,
it's something that we were talking about this with my business partner, the fact that meeting people when you have high expectations on yourself or in general, then you tend to have high expectations for others and you put 150%.
Mm.
And then if you're met by 5%, that goes back to this balance sheet, right?
Yeah,
Going back to
exactly.
that bank account. But then there is that comment that often would come up that is, but nobody asked you to put in those 150%.
Hmm.
How do you balance that out? How do you balance the find that fine line between what is needed, what is the input because of how we're conditioned, um, to make that work.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Maybe that's why I started with maybe I'm not doing that much of a great job in that sense. Um, it's the giving without the expectation, really. I'm willing to give, and if the other person gives as well, great. If the other person doesn't, it's going to hurt the relationship and maybe it doesn't move us forward as it could. Maybe I'm the first one to give, yes. Um, but yeah, like it's a risk that I've been willing to take for years, and I can quite easily detach myself from that if I'm being honest. If it doesn't go as I expected. Um, so yeah, there's that.
If I could jump in there for a second, this area that you've landed on here is a huge one. I don't want to call it a monster, but it's a big old one. This whole idea of expectations is
Hmm.
huge. So in the work that we do, and when we had the privilege of doing the TEDx talk that we did back in 2019, and we looked back on all the thousands of teams, couples, individuals that we'd worked with at that point in time, we recognized that there were four habits that all the successful relationships exhibited. They all demonstrated those four habits. All the struggling or challenged relationships that we had ever seen were missing one or more of those four habits. And of those four, the third habit that as we've articulated it, is ask, don't assume. And it speaks exactly to that point here. We all have assumptions that we carry based on the way we are, the way we grew up, where we grew up, our biases. We all carry expectations. And unless we can clarify those expectations by conversation, by talking to the people, we assume they carry the same expectations. So because something is important to me, I assume it's important to you. And because something is not important to me, I assume it's not important to you. And nothing could be further from the truth sometimes. Something could be really, really important to you, and I trivialize and I think, of course, that's not important. And I behave like it's not important to you when actually you're saying, no, hell no, this is really important to me. You've got to have those conversations. Otherwise, the wheels will come off very quickly. And you've got to be very clear. And it may be, and whether it's business partners or domestic partners, sometimes you have very different views on a simple situation. It could be, well, it could be a complicated situation. It could be bringing up children. How do you discipline them? How do you, what does it look like? What does good look like? Or in a business context, going back to your example, I give 150%, you gave 5%. I'm a workaholic, you're not a workaholic. What is this about? Why are you being lazy? All of a sudden now we're casting aspersions where, even if we don't say it, we're thinking all sorts of negative things. You've got to have those conversations. What are your expectations? What are you looking for from this? Let's get to a point where we can actually either agree or agree to disagree, but have those conversations. So important to be able to do that.
And I just want to jump on that because that's a really, this idea of expectations pervades every relationship. And if you talk about career progression, for example, in the workplace, this whole idea of being very clear on what it is you're being measured on, so that you deliver against that and not against assumptions you're making about what good looks like. Some people that we're talking with around career progression get so frustrated that they're stuck. They're the ones doing all the additional stuff to work. They're organizing the socials, they're making the notes from team meetings, they're doing all these other things, trying to be team and trying to be supportive, but they're not being seen to be outstanding in the things that their role is about, while other people might be doing just that, nothing else, and they're the ones being progressed. There's a line that a couple of our friends use that we've really hung on to, which says, to be clear is to be kind. And nothing is more important in relationships and where expectations are concerned than to be very clear. What does good look like for you? And that can only come by having the conversation with your client, with your colleague, with your boss, with your everybody. What does good look like for you, so that you know what they're expecting and what you're working towards.
And just very quickly jump on that one there. Just to be clear, to be kind, you have to be careful with that one though, because some people can be very clear and very direct.
Yeah, I never
It,
said rude.
exactly, in a very rude way, and that's
Yeah.
not exactly. I just want to make the point. That's not
Yeah.
what Andrew is talking about here.
Yeah.
Being clear, to be kind, not in a rude, dogmatic, whatever it is way. Just saying very clearly, this is what I'm expecting, kind of a thing. Not this is what I'm expecting, but these are my expectations.
Yeah.
If
What are
they're not your
yours?
expectations, help me understand. This is kind of what I thought. Everybody thought like this. If they don't, then help me understand, kind of a
Yeah.
thing. Back to those three words.
Yeah, sometimes it's often said like it's not what you said, it's how you say it as well, and how it's like I think sometimes kindness is the package in which candidness is delivered, isn't it? You
Yeah.
can just pass the hot potato with sweet sauce.
Yeah, there was a book called Radical Candor. I don't know if you've come across that one, or I know it's in the book that he talks about radical candor. I forget the name of the guy now, but anyway, it's a very, and it's a concept that came to prominence probably 10 years ago, something like that. And a lot of people, I think, misunderstood it. Just to say, if I'm being candid radically with you, I've really got a message to communicate with you. I can do it however, maybe with a smile on my face, but I'm still putting the knife in. It doesn't work for relationships. So
Yeah.
my pushback or my question to you was, how is that working out for you? Yes, you're being very clear and you're getting your point across, but how does that work out for the relationship? At the end of the day, do you still have a relationship with that person? If you're a leader, are they following you? Because who is it? John Maxwell says, if you're a leader, people are following you. If nobody's following you, then you're just going for a walk. So don't call yourself a leader. So what is it doing for the relationship, this radical candor that you are putting out there? Are you communicating in a way that people actually still want to engage with you?
Yeah. That's the
After.
important
That's
point.
the key thing. That's what relationships are about.
And it comes back to the emotional bank account. Are you taking chunks out of it and leaving it overdrawn? Or are you actually being kind by helping them succeed, by helping them know what good looks like, correct behaviors where necessary, and move towards good with clarity?
Who is it? Just very quickly, Maya Angelou says, people may forget what you said or what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel.
Yeah.
When you stuck that knife into the person just to deliver your point, they're going to carry that. They're not going to forget that. They believe that maybe they forgot what you said or whatever, but they felt you made me feel like this. I'm not going to forget that. And that's a serious withdrawal in the emotional bank account.
Yeah.
That's very difficult to recover
If I
from.
can share a personal story about that, until my 18, 19 birthday, if you would meet me for coffee for like half an hour, you would leave with the impression that I'm this arrogant idiot, super upfront, blunt, and all that.
You too? I've been told that was me.
Yeah,
Thank God we've grown up, huh?
and it took like the third or fourth friend to really be open with me for me to, okay, this is not my intention. This is not how I want to be perceived. I was delivering that message, that advice, but not with a knife, but with an actual machine gun. Like
Oh, wow.
it was really bad, and it took a while to work on it. And now, funny enough, is something that my clients, like 8 out of 10, mention when I ask them for a testimonial or recommendation or something like that. You will get open, honest, raw feedback delivered in a soft way or something like that. So that was something that it took a while to work on that. So if you're that person, you really have to have that need, that intention, that will to not kill that part of you, but to change it and make something out of it.
Exactly.
Because now it's something that people appreciate about me. I can be very honest, very open, especially if we're talking business. If you're coming to me to evolve in business and make things move forward, I need to be honest. I need to be blunt, but I cannot be arrogant. I cannot make you feel bad. So yeah.
So I mean, of course, I'm not going to ask you to summarize like years of efforts in like one sentence, but what was like quite key in the conversation you were having with yourself or maybe with others to
Mostly others. facial cues are there. If you pay attention, people respond before opening their own mouth. That's something that I've learned, and also therapy. Obviously, I went to therapy. It's something that we worked on for a while. Um, but yeah, paying attention to reactions, as in we're having coffee, having a beer, and I say something, and the person goes, I'm like, oh shit, I did it again. I'm like, okay. And like over time, and I literally lost friends out of this issue that I had, relationships I would like to recover and explain. Um, but yeah, I would say that facial cues.
And it's the facial cues were always there, but was it the fact that, what was it that didn't allow you to see them, or maybe be aware of, or fully conscious that that was happening before?
Before, as a, I don't know if it's the way I was brought up or as a kid, I was like, I was that really frustrated child. I don't care about anything. Nothing bothers me. Blah blah blah. Fuck all this. And I took that mindset to way too long, as in almost to into my 20s. So I really did not give a shit about anything around me, and that's not a good place to be. Even though when I did talk to people, I gave people advice, it came from a good place. I wasn't meaning to hurt anyone. That was never my intention for anything. So I don't think I was arrogant by core. I did have a or arrogant uh, delivery, I guess. Yeah.
If I could jump in for a second, I think it's important to understand that we're all as people wired differently. And so there's a personality model that we use that it's reflective of all personality models out there, to be fair, whether it's Myers-Briggs or Belbin or DISC or Colors or Enneagram, all these models out there. We love the animal personality model just because it's so simple. But in essence, what it says is all personality types come down to two dimensions. There are those people who are naturally wired to lead, and others who are naturally wired to, or they're happy to let other people lead. They don't need the spotlight, the limelight. It's fine, you crack on, you do that. I'll just get on with my stuff. But on the other dimension, which speaks to this point here, there's some people who are very focused on the task, getting the job done, and other people who are much more focused on the people, and they're connected with how are people left feeling, what's good. And the example we share in that space is of a team, a group of people who are they're in a boat and they're trying to get to the other side of the lake. And the instructions get to the other side of the lake. Now, the people who are task focused will get that boat to the other side of the lake come hell or high water. You will get there, guaranteed. Now, there may not be anybody left in the boat by the time you get there because it's been an uncomfortable ride. People are not happy. They're like, I'm out of here. They're in the water. They're swimming. And they don't want to be in that boat. But the boat will get there. And the people who are people focused will be, everybody is happy in the boat. They're warm. They're comfortable. They're smiling. Maybe they're even singing. They may never get to the other side of the lake, but everybody's comfortable. And of course, that's caricaturizing to make a point here. But the point is, we're all wired differently. Most of us are on somewhere on that continuum, and it's important to recognize there's a balance you need to find. Sometimes my default personality type, where I started out, and I say it came across, Joel, as arrogant or rude, but I was 100% focused on getting the job done. Give me the job. And my brain told me I was in investment banking. That's kind of the environment I grew up in. Get the job done or get out of my face was kind of the world I grew up in. You bring
doesn't
that into,
work in a marriage when you run a business
any relationship
together.
doesn't work well. I mean, and that's why. But this is back in the in the 90s.
Yeah.
Investment banking was a horrible place to be. It was a very, very brash environment. There was no care for the people. It was just money, money, money. And that's kind of what certainly the organizations I worked in and saw around me. Actually, it was only until we set up our own business together, our first business, and actually realized that left up to me, we'd be firing people all the time and turnover was going to be crazy. I'm like, whoa, I need to develop some people skills here. And Andrea had those in spades. So I was like, how do I learn from this? How do you work with the people side? And how can I redress that balance to be, yes, we need to get the job done, but how do you keep the people on side and keep them with you on that journey, keep them in the boat? Otherwise, it's very expensive having to keep replacing people. How do we find that balance? Sometimes, yes, you need to focus on the job. Sometimes you need to focus on the people. Get that balance right. You get to the other side of the lake, everybody's happy. That's nirvana, to put a thing on it.
And yeah, it's it's the awareness, isn't it? Because we're not saying that you should become this amorphous blend of nothingness across everything. We're saying stay true to who you are and your strengths, but build awareness that this is your strength, which means it can be perceived as harsh or brash or even rude by people who are far more in tune with the emotions and the relational experience of what's going on. So it's learning to adjust it's learning to recognize your strengths, hold on to your strengths, but adjust your style depending on who you're interacting with so that you can be heard better and the relationship is preserved in the process.
100%.
Mm.
Yeah.
I love that because it's really getting us back to this balance between perception and intention.
Yeah.
It always comes from a good intention, either getting a task done or taking care of the people.
Mhm.
Even if they die happy. There's always this this thing of how it's perceived and closing that gap between those two. And I think we talked a lot about the bank account and how to make those top ups. And I really want to ask you guys, all of you, the three of you, how do you top up your account? With whether it's at work or at home. Give me at least a couple of examples, like one at work, one at home. How do you top up your account? What is something that you do regularly, daily, weekly, to make sure that you nurture those relationships?
S-
You go.
So if we start out, one of the things that we committed to very early in our marriage is to have date nights. Sometimes we slip up when work gets so busy, but the intention is to carve out that time together where you can connect as a couple, uh, forget about the pressure. Now that we work together, for example, forget about the pressures of work and client deliverables and so on, and just talk about what's going on in each other's heads and each other's hearts so that you stay on the same page with dreams and desires, and refueling the reminding yourself you really love each other even though you were really frustrated with each other at work during the day. It's having those moments. We've been known to, it doesn't have to be a date night. We've been known to, after we've had a really heavy series of workshop deliveries, for example, on a Monday afternoon, disappear to the movies because we can. And it just breaks the
I say that.
routine and
Literally
creates
say that.
that space to just feel alive again. When we have strategy meetings to do, we like to go off to a beautiful hotel where we're talking business, but they'll come and serve us nice drinks and we have nice lunch. Just create those moments of space and connection to refuel. That's a relationship, but it refuels me as well, having space and beauty and lovely people serving me nice food. That helps to feed me.
Well, I was going to let Joel go first here, but I just want to jump on that just to follow on that point there. And just a quick point to make is you really need to get to understand what's important to the other person to be able to make deposits. Don't assume that, again, because something I said is important to me, it's going to be important to you, so I'm going to do to you what I want done for me. Don't work like that. Figure out what's important for the other person and then do those things. Andrew's a very different person to myself. I enjoy going to sit in a restaurant and do strategy meetings and so on, but that's more her thing than it is mine. My task focused person would say, we could do this at home. Why are we spending this extra money going to the restaurant? All that kind of, especially when things are tight. I'm like, but okay, but I know it's fueling her. It's making a deposit into her emotion. I enjoy it as well, but not to the same level. So, and that's the key thing here. It's finding out what is it that's really important for the other person. Going back to habit 3 again here, don't make assumptions that it's important to me, important to you, etc., etc. Find out what it is that's important for that person and make deposits for them. You're not making deposits into your own emotional bank account. you need to do that as well. But for
You
the
fuel
relationship, you
yourself, but
fuel
for the
yourself. For the
relationship, yeah.
relationship's sake, you need to be making deposits into their emotional bank account. And if they're doing the same for you as well, beautiful. That's where success comes from. Joel, I did want to let you go first there, but I just had to follow on that
No,
thread.
totally, totally fine, totally fine. I'm learning so much. Like I'm just
Bless you.
saying stuff, and you two articulate it so well. So this is Phil. This is great to me. I was gonna say similar to you guys were saying. Random acts of routine breakers.
Yeah.
As in, if we're here, maybe we're going out to dinner, like right, like something that is completely unplanned and breaks the routine. As someone that completely hates routine in every way, shape, or form, I love that, and my partner as well. Another thing that we didn't talk about, maybe this is a whole other session, the importance of individuality in a relationship as well. And I have a real practical example. A few years ago, my partner started practicing jiu-jitsu, like a martial art, something that she really loves. And out of that, I tried Krav Maga and jiu-jitsu as well, and I really like it as well. I made a conscious decision to not join her school. Like it's her space, it's for her, for her friends. And if I do, I do on my own in some other space as well, because I really value that. Not that we need time apart, but her and I need something that is ours,
Yeah.
not something that is mine, not ours, because the house is ours, the business is ours, the friends are the same. Like keeping that individuality, I think it's really important, and I believe that tops up
Yeah.
our own bank accounts as well.
That's a really
Yeah,
good point. I think it's trying to remember the author. Is it Edgar Schein? Not Edgar Schein. Freeman. Anyway, he said that quite often the problem in couple relationships isn't that they aren't uh together enough. It's that they're not separate enough. The individuality has been lost
yeah,
in the relationship, so that you've forgotten who you are and the uniqueness that you bring and the interest that that creates in the relationship, because you're still two living, breathing people, and the only way it starts showing up is when you argue. But this ability to keep growing as an individual so that you continually bring the essence of you, the full essence of who you are, to the relationship, rather than somebody that's just blended into the other person and there's no distinction anymore. That's a really, really important point. And something else I wanted to share was when we talk about habit 4, connect before you correct, that importance of making sure you have that rapport, that emotional connection, that sense of feeling valued and appreciated for who you are as an individual before you feel the need to give constructive feedback. One of the ways we bring that alive is through the 5 love languages, or the 5 languages of appreciation, which I'm sure many on the call with us will recognize. And when John said we're very different, for me, words of affirmation put the wind in my sails, as does physical touch. Whereas for him, acts of service, doing things, or jumping in and helping with something that he needs to get done, that speaks much more loudly to him, as does quality time. And just understanding the different ways we each feel loved, or love's loudest language for each of us, that's how we can intentionally make deposits in emotional bank accounts, by doing for them. And I think God has a sense of humor that you end up with somebody with a completely different love language that you need to learn and make a habit of speaking, because it doesn't come naturally.
Yeah.
Well, that's the attachment style
Yeah.
issue.
But if I could just pick up on just going back to Joel's point there for just a second, it was a great reminder to me, Joel, of why it's so important to give people space. Because me being me, well, Andrew and I we're together 24/7. We work together, we live together, we go to the gym together.
same.
We're together,
Same.
and I love that. But actually,
Mhm.
it was an important reminder to me. I know Andrea also enjoys her own space. So like on a Friday afternoon, for example, she will go for a walk with some of her friends, and she loves to just catch up with various friends and do coffee and so on. And whenever she goes, I'm like, where's she going? I wanted to be with me. But actually, I've learned that actually this is very important for her. She refuels herself by doing some of those things. So I'm happy to let her go. Go, you go and do go. Of course, I'm not controlling, but I'm happy to let her go and say, go and refuel yourself. So when we come back, it'll be even better there.
I'll be
But it
more
was a
fun to be
be more fun. But
around.
it was a great point that you made there. Just recognize again, because this is what I want to do, and I want to be together 24/7 and everything. I shouldn't assume that you should also want to be together 24/7 and everything. What's important to each of us here? Let's be respectful of what's important to each other.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like carving that space to be missed
Yeah.
and to
Yeah.
miss the other. But I think it's leading us as well to one very, very important component that we mentioned at the very beginning, which is boundaries.
Hmm.
And actually being able to create these boundaries within ourselves, as of course you might have that need to be with the other, but at your own demise, because then you will eventually have too much of the other. Not that it's always a given, but it's one of the things that sometimes we might not know always what we truly need in that specific moment, and get trapped in the moment. So being able to have something maybe a little more, I don't like to say organized or process driven, but somehow to carve these things that are there for our own good, my help. So if I take that, really asking what the other needs is really key to build a healthy relationship. Even if sometimes we might not always know, but we have a clear idea of what of
Hmm.
what it is most of the
Hmm.
time. And that's helpful at home with our clients, setting the right expectations, right? It's important to have like certain boundaries within ourselves and within the relationships. That's an important point that I wanted to pick on there. How do you create that boundary to protect what you have? Because that's also something I believe is important for businesses. How do you protect that relationship with your client so they don't run away with the first other supplier that comes in? How do you nurture that?
That's a really good question. And the challenge for many of us is we don't stop long enough to ask ourselves what's really important to us, and therefore what do we need to protect and put boundaries around. And it can be your time. It can be being present for family in the evenings, for example. So you're not available and your diary isn't just open up to clients or colleagues at whatever time of day. But we can't put healthy boundaries in place unless we get really clear about what's important, what do you need to defend, and what can you flex around. We like to talk about scheduling based on your values rather than based on your to-do list. And quite often it's stuff that needs to get done that fill up the diary first, and the people and things that are really important to us uh, get squeezed, or might not get represented. But if we started with defending the space for the people and things that are really important to us, other people usually can flex around it. We just don't give enough clarity. And so we end up being, as we like to say, subject to OPOs and OPAs, other people's opinions and other people's agendas, because we're not clear on what it is that we want to fill our day and the balance that we want to create across the week or the month, uh, making time for the people and things that matter to us.
Yeah. Now, to add to that, there, if anything, I would just say that's the most important thing. Starting with yourself first, identifying what's important to me. But again, don't assume it's important to the other person. Take time to also understand what's important to them. But understanding what's important to you is what will allow you to set the boundaries around it, so that you then don't drop the balls on the important things in your life.
Yeah.
Because when you drop those balls, those are the things that you drop them and you think, oh, Really? Why
Yeah.
did I do that? Those are the things that make you start feeling bad about yourself. And it's Andrea's quote. She says, "Some balls, or somebody, I think you said it. Some balls will bounce, some balls will break." So you want it's not every ball that you can drop that's going to come back to you. Some things will be, you drop a ball in something, a significant relationship or something. You do something, you forget to do something for this person. You do that a few times, that ball doesn't come back to you. It breaks. Something just bounce back, no problem. But so you've got to rethink what's really important here. Your to-do list will go on forever, and uh,
Let's talk to do
I'm
lists,
I'm I'm
right?
talking to myself here. I'm a born workaholic. My personality type is to-do list. Let me just go boom, 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 boom. Of course, I'm prioritizing them. They're not all the same, etc., etc. But still, in my mind, the most important thing is to get that to-do list done.
And you get really frustrated if you don't tick everything
Exactly.
off.
If everything doesn't get done, I'm like, I wanted to get all this stuff done. But actually, when I stop and I think, what's really most important to me? Yeah, my family, my health, our relationships around. That's really what's important to me. If the to-do list doesn't get done, you know what? Okay, the to-do list actually is what pays the bill, so it's super important to get it done. But if I get to the end of my life and I think, yeah, I've got all these things done, I've paid the bills, that's been great, but I haven't got my family around me, I haven't got my health around, then, what was the point? So we
Mm,
need to sometimes just stop and just say, what's important? And then put boundaries around it.
yeah.
Okay, so my health is important to me. I'm going to go, eat sensibly. I'm going to go to the gym. I don't want to go to the gym, but I'm going to go. Our son, who is very much a workout guy now, he's what, 20 this year? He is Mr. Super Fit. I'm trying to work on six pack, but anyway, that's not for me. But he was telling us, actually, one of the things that develops when you do something that you really, really, really don't want to do, there's a part in your brain called the anterior mid-cingulate cortex that develops, it grows. And that is super important because, as research has shown, the people who live the longest on the planet have the most developed AMCs, the
Yeah.
anterior mid-cingulate cortex. So it's actually a good thing to do when you really don't want to do something. Just force yourself.
But it's
I
the
need to
right
do it.
thing
It's
to
the when
do.
it's exactly when you don't want to do it, but it's the right thing to do because of that. You've decided it's the right thing to do. Set boundaries around it. Go to the gym even if you don't want to go to the gym. Do those things. Put the boundaries in place, because if you don't, the easy thing to do is, you know what? I can't be bothered. I'm not feeling well. I'm not feeling right. Of course, if you're really not feeling well, then don't do it. It's probably not a good thing to do, but don't do it out of laziness. Put
Yeah.
those boundaries in place and stick with them.
Yeah, that's Uberman resilience muscle, basically, right there.
There
Exactly.
you go.
Exactly.
Back to that word.
And it's like what is taught in ice baths is taught. That's the thing, like finding that one thing that you absolutely hate and do it over and over again until you build enough evidence that you can do it, and it gets comfortable, and whenever it gets comfortable, then you need to move on. um
I call
you
them non-negotiables.
Yes,
Yeah.
There you
indeed.
go.
Non-negotiables.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
a
So,
few of them.
so what were your non-negotiables that allows you to build that
The
connection in your relationships?
In a relationship with myself, definitely the workout thing. Like
Mm.
we're going to the gym now 5 times a week. Even if you told me like 2 years ago, oh, you're gonna be going to the gym 5 times a week, I was like, that's never gonna happen
Not
because my
me.
to-do list,
Yeah.
there's no way I'm gonna be able to skip work to go to, and then I started doing it. And guess what? It's fine. Everything's still getting done. Everything's happening. Like
And you
clients
feel
are
better.
happy. Like everything.
Life
Another
continues.
Exactly. So this business that it's the 11th year this month that I've been on my own, and the first 10 was like 10, 12 hours days most days. And this year I was like, this shit has got to stop because it's not sustainable. I'm gonna do less.
Hmm.
It's not only fine, I've already made as much money in June that I've made the entire last year. So
Wow.
what is happening, right? It's
Hmm.
so counterintuitive, like it's so weird. It's fine. So I really set those non-negotiables. It's laying off the phone at night. It's trying to go to the bed earlier. It's having a sort of schedule, which I don't like, but I understand that it's necessary, like
Hmm.
some somewhat routine. Um, yeah, it's setting really those as non-negotiables, and it's something that I bring up with every client that we onboard. Listen, this is all negotiable. Let's have a conversation, but this is the starting point
Hmm.
Yeah.
because it's my business. You're the client coming. This it starts here. Let's have the conversation. Um, and I was really scared to do that when we had that conversation. This has to change, and we found out that most clients, it's fine. It's fine. Just have the conversation. Just have the conversation. Most people will understand it, and it's fine. Like, don't text me. Don't text me at night. Like, leave it to the day after. Most people are like, yeah, that makes sense. It was like, oh, I can do this. So it's really that, and it has helped me, and it has helped in my relationship as well, the both of us, because no partner likes someone that is constantly like,
Yeah,
oh,
exactly.
yeah, the fucking phone. It's dangerous
Indeed.
to a relationship.
Indeed.
And this is coming from someone that because the thing tells you on my phone, it's like between 4 to 6 hours a day that I spend on my phone alone. And I still do it, and I'm still able to get everything else done without hurting the relationship. So there are ways to make everything work. And this entire session, the one thing that I like to highlight is the most important part for anything is clear communication, but no one teaches us clear communication.
Exactly. Exactly.
And it's something that I had to learn myself. Something I definitely did not learn from my parents. To this day, they cannot communicate, not with me, not with my sister, not among each other.
Mhm.
Um, no one's going to teach you clear communication. You'll have to learn it yourself, and you'll have to want to learn it. Um, but it completely changed my life, like everywhere, like in every sense. So yeah,
I
you
love
guys are the experts for sure, and you can for sure talk to this a lot more than I can. But it is what I sell as a business is clear communication as well,
Mhm.
branding and marketing. Um, Funny enough, makes total sense, has made me a better professional once I started working on these
Mhm.
things on an individual level.
Well, I love that you said that because that's our mission. That's what got us into doing this business, where we realized, in our second year of marriage, the things that were challenging us and work styles being completely seeing life completely differently and our approach to work being diametrically opposite. That created a lot of frustration, and we thought with all the education we had, with the corporate experience, John in banking, me in management consulting, with the life experience we had, why is it that we weren't equipped? Why? And if we're struggling with this, who else is struggling with this? And what we learned then at the time, it was that animal personality by Dr. John Trent that just helped us realize, oh my gosh, there's my way of thinking and at least four other ways of thinking about life. Of course, there's 7 billion, whatever, different ways of thinking about life because everybody is unique. But that's what got us on this journey of saying, okay, our observation in life is that there are four key areas of difference that will cause relational tension. How do we understand it? And how do we develop the skills and behaviors to overcome those tensions or have better conversations when those tensions emerge? So we expect differences in work styles and personalities. That's what tripped us up. So that's one. Differences in communicating conflict, approaches to conflict, how you react and respond in conflict situations. Differences, as John mentioned, in different cultures, different beliefs, different biases that cause you to have certain assumptions about the right thing to do, and you impose those expectations on others. How do you have better conversations around that? And differences in the way we each feel valued and appreciated and loved. How do we get better at that? And so when we talk about the four habits of all successful relationships, their habits and behaviors to be intentional about, because those are the things that lead to success in relationships in addressing those four key areas of difference that can cause relational tension. So I love when you said, Joel, that you went on this journey of learning how to communicate better. Communication for us means, for the various areas of difference, how do we talk about that stuff specifically? And we're not taught it in any formalized way anywhere. And we're doing our part. We say if you at least start with the four habits, that's solid ground in building your relational intelligence. Because as we said, your relational intelligence will either promote you or expose you, especially under pressure. How do we intentionally build those skills and become more relationally intelligent? Anyway, you have me on our hobby horse there, because that's exactly the point. We don't learn it except by accident.
If I jump in just with maybe a slightly shorter version of that, I would say communication is about sending a message and receiving feedback on it. If you send a message and you get a different response to what you're expecting, well,
Completely not
then
communication.
that's not successful
Communication
communication. You
didn't
didn't
happen.
communicate what you were trying to get. You got to send and you got to receive that back. And again, thinking back to how we're coming across, going back to what we were talking about, emotional bank account and deposits and withdrawals, communication is about sending a message, um, and getting a message back that strengthens the relationship. If you back into radical candor word, you send a message and you get a, you damage the relationship. Well, is that effective communication? Well, maybe you think you've got the point across, but in terms of the relationship, what's it done to the relationship? You really need to be, for success in relationships, going back to what we said earlier, just getting those balances into positive territory. And just as Andrew's mentioned the four habits here, where we say people can improve their communication and actually learn, and maybe it's something, Joel, you share with your parents and people around them, is actually these are skills that you can learn, is our
You can
experience.
develop them. Yeah.
You
The
can develop
muscle.
them, the muscle you develop. And actually, the habits that we teach, habits 1 and 2, together help you identify the withdrawals you're making and stop making them. And habits 3 and 4 help you, identify what is deposits and actually start making those deposits on purpose. So together, when you practice the four habits, what you're doing is minimizing withdrawals and maximizing deposits, getting your balance into positive territory. And that's where you have a chance of successful relationships where everybody feels good.
Yeah.
That's
And you have the emotional buffer for when things inevitably go wrong and there's misunderstanding. There is enough balance in the account for you to deal with that and not plummet into overdraft or get to the point where you lose the will to even want to work on the relationship anymore.
Yeah. So we'd say practicing the four habits really is what sits at the heart of effective communication.
Yeah. Great play is a solid foundation to start building
Yeah.
intentionality in
And
your
we didn't make them up.
relationships.
We just identified them. It's
Exactly.
like this is what successful relationships do.
Yeah, I guess like right, most of the things that we do, the businesses you build, is based on lived experience, right? Like you say, there are a certain set of skills that we weren't necessarily taught at school. We weren't taught how
We
to
weren't.
live.
Yeah.
We weren't taught how to love, or not ourselves, for example. And these are things that are built with habits, with consistently building those muscles until they become part of us, part
Yeah.
of
Mhm.
merge with our identity. We're conserving who we are and developing a new version of ourselves that is just improved and is able to build these sustainable relationships and connections, um, making us then a more efficient social animal, shall I say? But I'm very, very grateful for this space because it's also what's allow us to practice these skills and
Yeah.
to expand our horizons, meet with the audience. I'm very, very grateful to have had. Thank you so much for your participation, your comments, um, and thank you guys for joining me. I want to I have a lot of wisdom to close on, but I just want to give you a final opportunity, maybe for one sentence or one word that you want to leave our audience with.
I'll go for the sentence option, and it is this: the very quality of the life that we experience is dependent on quality relationships. So be on purpose about building your skills relationally so you can turn up better, have better conversations, and get better results in life.
And mine is a version of that. I mean, who is it? Esther Perel, who says the quality of our lives is basically based on the quality of our relationships. Our big encouragement to everybody is to get more understanding of the people around you and use that to be more understanding of them. So get more understanding and then be more understanding is really where all successful relationships come from. If you get selfish and it's all about you, I'm
Then
sorry,
it
but
will be all about you.
it will be all about only you. If you want to have relationships, successful relationships, whether it's at home, at work, or in life, you've got to think about the other person and do things to make them feel good, even if it's costing you a little bit here. Yeah. That's where successful relationships come from. And that's what will get you to the end of the road where you can look back and go, yeah, actually, you know what? There's still people in the boat here with me. That's what life is all about. Rather than you being a loner, well, if that's what you want, then that's what you're going to get. But really get more understanding so you can be more understanding is what I'd leave people with here.
Mhm. How about you,
Uh,
John?
yeah. So funny enough, I was gonna jump into a more arrogant version of an answer. I was gonna say something like, I love the cliche that a lot of these conversations lead me to, as in, if it was easy, everyone would do it, everyone would be happy and rich and
Mm.
fulfilled and whatnot. Everything we just talked about for this hour and a half takes the hardest work that you'll probably start, and there's no fucking finish line. Like it's forever. But during that process is a better life in every avenue. Like
Mhm.
you'll literally be happier. So I go back to resilience as well. What's the choice? You have two choices: the hard work and happiness, or keep going with your routine and be miserable. Choose.
Yeah.
Mhm.
um,
Yeah.
it really comes down to that. I've made my choice. Those around me have made their choices. Um, there's always time, and you can always pick a better thing for you.
And
Yeah.
and if they've chosen something differently for now, my question to them would be, how's it working out for you?
Yeah.
If it's
Yeah,
working out fine, keep doing it. If
yeah,
it's not working out fine, maybe you want to think about something else, do things differently. You can learn things differently. Who was it, Einstein, who said, "You can't solve a problem by the same level of thinking that got you there. You need to move up a level to find new light, new information to be able to solve a problem. If you're having challenges in your relationship, again, at work, at home, wherever it happens to be, get new information, get that understanding. Like I was saying earlier, get that understanding. Don't just get it and park it, but get it and put it into practice. Be more understanding of the people around you. That's how you improve relationships. Put all these things into practice and move forward. And if you're not doing that, well, you kind of only have yourself to blame. Information is out there. Go find that information, learn it, and put it into practice. Don't be a victim. Don't sit there and go, well, this is me.
yeah.
I haven't got the skills. It's all gonna go. And it's all, by the way, it's all their fault. They're bad people. I'm doing nothing wrong. Don't fall into that trap. Think about, even if you're only doing 10% of the challenge, and of the problem, rather, you're only bringing 10% of the issue here. What's that 10%? Because it may be that 10% that you're doing, forgive me the language here, is really pissing the other person off. And they're then responding really badly, and you don't like their response. And before you know it, I don't want to be around you anymore. To just take responsibility for that 10%. I'm not excusing the other person if they're doing really bad things, but at least take responsibility for what you're doing and stop doing the things. Stop making those withdrawals. Start making deposits, and you will be surprised how quickly your relationships start to improve. Of course, there's no overnight success in these kind of things. These are very complicated things, like you were saying there, Joel. These are difficult things to do.
With no finish line. I
With
heard
no,
that.
no
No
finish line.
finish line.
But keep doing them. Build those muscles, put those habits in place, and you will start to enjoy better relationships down the road.
The great thing that we're saying is wherever you are, you
Yeah.
can start now and have and create a different experience in all your relationships. So be intentional.
Mm,
It's worth it.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's a very, very beautiful way to close the session. I think building a routine of happiness is a choice. And it starts with self awareness. When you start getting and learning to be aware, you
Mhm.
can start snapping away from this victimhood, not being victim of your circumstances, not being victim of your conditioning, and
Mhm.
actually rewriting the rest of your story. I always say that awareness is 70% of the work, and then those 30% are the endless job that you do for the rest of your life. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us. Thank you so much, Meryl, for your support and your comments as well. Thanks, everyone. Uh, Please do check out the amazing guests that we've had today. Check out their business, the Four Habits Institute, Growing Design. They're both really talented in what they do and really great people to have around tonight. Thank you so
Yep.
much, so much for your
Thank you
presence.
so much.
Thanks for having us,
Thank
Moana,
you.
and lovely meeting you, Joel.
Thank you.
Let's
I've
stay in
learned a
touch.
lot.
Yeah.
I've learned a lot. I'm hooked.
One
Thank
thing
you.
before we close the live, I just want to say, don't forget beating the bed for 15 minutes 10 days in a row.